Namaste and welcome to this course, Pedagogy in Higher Education. The particular part of this course is called Higher Education and Flexible Learning, and it gives you 15 credits in extension. My name is Saadat Karimi. I am your teacher in this course. The purpose of the course is to provide employers at universities and colleges with basic higher education teaching, training, sustaining the quality of education at the undergraduate and graduate levels, and thereby create good conditions for students' learning and knowledge development. To the general objective, regarding the general objectives of higher education act you have read before, I guess. In addition to them, participants in the course Higher Education Pedagogy and Flexible Learning must, after completing the education, demonstrate knowledge, skills, and attitudes as a basis for working professionally as a teacher in higher education within their subject area and for participating in the development of higher education. The participants should be able to discuss and problematize student learning within their own subject area based on educational science and subject didactic research or subject didactic research with relevance to teaching in higher education. Learning objectives are several. You should be able to independently and together with others plan, implement, and evaluate teaching and examination on a scientific or artistic basis within one's own field of knowledge. You should be able to use and contribute to the development of physical and digital learning environment to promote group and individual learning. You should be able to meet students with disabilities. You should be able to use relevant national and local regulations and discuss society's goals with higher education and academic teaching in relation to one's own practice and your own practice and students' participation in education. You are expected to demonstrate a reflective approach all the time, reflective approach to your own academic teaching, the relationship with students, and to the values of higher education, such as democracy, internationalization, gender equality, equal treatment, and sustainability. You are expected to be able to utilize, analyze, and communicate your own and others' experiences, as well as relevant research results, as a basis for the development of education and your own profession. As a participant, you must have begun a pedagogical portfolio and have presented an independent work that deals with education and teaching within your own subject area related to relevant educational science and or subject didactic research. The course is organized into two modules of 5 credits each. The first model is Academy as an institution. You read the text about this subject, what academy is in modern life, the academic teaching role, and academic values. Here we have focused on pedagogical principles. The academy's governing documents and basic academic values. You should know well your national documents, the documents of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Yeah, academic teaching and theories of adult learning linked to higher education. Higher education pedagogical development work is next model. Here we have focus on how we can design the course. Any course you deal with, course design is in the focus, the main goal. Here also learning objectives. It's all the time. Learning activities, what kind of activities could be relevant, how we give feedback, how we provide assessment and examination in higher education. And we suggest that you implement this theory of constructive linking. Flexible learning is the second part of this model. Here we have focus on student activating strategies, methods, and techniques. The teaching is based on the principle of active exchange of experience between you from maybe different subjects and maybe from different institutions. This is done through collegial pedagogical feedback through the activity critical friend. The teaching thus aims to promote active learning and co-responsibility for you, as participants, to achieve the goals set for the course. During the course, your study forms will be self-study, seminars, asynchronous dialogue, and supervision by me, but also individually and in groups. Individual assessments for each component are presented in the form of written report, as well as an oral presentation and peer review of another student's assignment. So the first model will be examined by an assignment, the academy as an institution, the academic teacher role, and academic values. So in this first report, you describe your pedagogical basic view, both orally and with written presentation. And in the end of the second model, you are going to argue about university, choose and develop any developmental work. It can be relevant for Karabakh University. To provide university pedagogical development work, which also you are expected to present and discuss orally, like defend it by referring to some theories, and then develop it and submit as a written presentation. Compulsory literature is, first of all, the book by Bits and Tang, Teaching for Quality Learning at University. We used this main book in Model 1. So we are also expect that you read some kind of literature on legally sound examination. I can provide some translation of Swedish literature, but you are going to also to have a good familiarizing with Azerbaijani one, Azerbaijani documentation. Next literature is by Karaman and Edling, Professional Learning and Identities and Teaching. It's about international narratives of successful teachers. By reading these narratives, you can also reflect and maybe recognize your own view, your own action, challenges, and possibilities. Next literature is by Magnusson and Richler, towards pedagogy of higher education, the Bologna process, the didactic and teaching. I will also you read the book of by Rossi, Inclusive Learning Design in Higher Education, the practical guide. It's a very good practical guide for you, dealing with creating equitable learning experiences. Additional 300 pages in article and report format will be added, provided on the learning platform. We are going to use Google Classroom as a learning platform. And in Model 2, you will discuss the question of room, how the physical room is a good resource for you and your students in learning, teaching and learning. Main literature here, Use the Room, written by the Swedish academicians, Swedish authors Alfredsson, Asper, and Backman. And then the literature by Cleveland, Innes, Martin Garrison, and Randy, An Introduction to Distance Education, Understanding, Teaching, and Learning in a New Era. And then the literature by Hunt and Chalmers, University Teaching in Focus, a learning-centered approach. I would like to say that the theory of learning-centered approach would take your main energy, your main focus in this moment. A good literature, Developing Expertise for Teaching in Higher Education, written by King. So very useful. I would like you order it, buy it, and read all the time, even after this course. And now I am back to the first literature to talk about it a little bit more. So this book is addressed to teachers, to staff developers, and to administrators teaching for quality learning and university. Individual teachers will need to generate the solutions to the teaching problems they encounter in their classrooms. So those solutions will not be found in learning a whole new bag of teaching tricks, any one of which may or may not be useful for your particular circumstances. Solutions are likely to be found in reflecting on your teaching problems and deriving your own ways of handling them within your department context. But before you can do that, you need a framework with which to structure your reflections. Constructive alignment provides such a framework, theoretical framework, anchoring teaching decisions all the time to aiding students in achieving the intended learning outcomes and assessing how well they do so. This book consists of 4 parts. The first one, Effective Teaching and Learning for Today's Universities, consists of 6 chapters. In chapter 1, we look at how universities have changed in the short course of this century and how an outcomes-based approach to teaching and learning seems well suited to the changing context. Chapter 2 presents some of the research of student learning that helps in designing more effective teaching. Students can use effective approach deep approach, and ineffective approach, so-called surface approach to the learning, so that effective teaching maximizes the form and minimizes the latter knowledge. Chapter 3 sets the stage for effective teaching by looking at what motivating students might mean and what the climate for teaching might be like. This requires that teachers reflect on what they are doing, why they are doing it, and if it can be done more effectively. Chapter 4 describes context for effective teaching and learning that apply to all modes of teaching. Chapter 5 delves into the nature of what we teach, describing the natures of declarative knowledge and functioning knowledge, and how we need to articulate levels of understanding these forms of knowledge. And finally, in chapter 6, this chapter describes how constructive alignment came about and explains how it fits into the outcomes-based model of teaching and learning. And then part 2, designing constructively aligned outcomes-based teaching and learning. This part describes how a constructively aligned system of outcomes-based teaching may be designed. So 6 chapters even here. Chapter 7 looks at intended learning outcomes at 3 levels: graduate outcomes, program outcomes, and course outcomes, focusing on declarative or functional knowledge as appropriate. Chapters 8 and 9 go into the design of teaching and learning activities for declarative and functioning outcomes, respectively. In chapter 10, you can read about principles of assessment, and here you meet a good discussion of these principles. In chapter 10, we have also assessment for declarative and functioning outcomes, and we have them even in chapter 11 and 12. And finally, in part 3, called constructive alignment in action, here we have discussing the theory and design of constructively aligned teaching. Also here we have 6 chapters. Chapter 13 discusses questions of how best to implement constructive alignment at various levels, course and department, faculty and school, the whole institution and beyond, looking at the implications for policy, documents for policy and support at the various levels. We then summarize what the research says about the effectiveness of constructively aligned teaching. In chapter 14, we present several examples of implementing constructive alignment at various levels, with particular emphasis on a variety of courses whose designers have been willing to share their work with us. Perhaps part 3 will convince you as readers who might have lingering doubts that constructive alignment is not pie in the sky, but eminently manageable, workable, and effective. You know that Bologna process started in the beginning of 20s, and requires member countries of the European Union to put in place national qualification frameworks. I would like you to read more about the Bologna process and how you can implement them in the national Azerbaijani context, because Azerbaijani Republic also connected, joining the Bologna process. And the Bologna process put it in place of national qualification frameworks to define, namely, learning outcomes at various degree levels. And they will do it with quality assurance systems. Similar concerns in universities worldwide have led increasingly to the adoption of one form of or another of outcome-based teaching learning. The form of outcomes-based teaching learning outlined and exemplified in Big and Tank is constructive alignment. This book outlines the theory and implementation of constructively aligned outcomes-based learning, teaching learning with hands-on path and detailed exam. That I hope really that you will find it very useful for you. The Bologna process involving, as you know, 47 countries in the European Union. It's an even larger scale attempt to improve teaching, again with an emphasis on learning outcomes. So this the outcomes-based teaching and learning, we state what we intend, the general outcomes a graduate of university should achieve. And in this learning, we also intend following from this that we derive the content-based program and specific course level outcomes. Graduate outcomes recall the older notion of teaching goals, but placing them in a more systematic context. In a wide-ranging survey of nearly 3,000 participants in the study by Angela and Cross in 1993, identified 6 goal clusters that teachers might address. The first cluster is higher order thinking skills that we should, as teachers, develop in our students. The second one is basic academic success. And the third one, discipline-specific knowledge and skill. And the fourth is liberal arts and academic values, then work and career development, and then personal development. All 6 are equally important in our work. Student success framework series are important that you have a focus on during your reading. Example is, for example, about how we can increase inclusivity at the university, or how we can guarantee in connectivity, how we can provide student-centered teaching, and but also agility, etc. The Swedish academic from the Swedish pedagogue Hansen have written a book, is the author of the book Pedagogical Skills, published it in 2016. I'm going to use it and give you examples, good examples. Outcomes-based, teaching and learning. It's about teaching at universities and college how to use the training and workshops provided to systematically examine teaching. During the course in higher education teaching at the University of Gothenburg, where I worked, participants who came from different faculties described their reflections on teaching. Each of the 32 participants had completed 3 courses on teaching in higher education at the time of the interview. The first course was at a basic level. In the second course, the participants focused on constructive alignment in relation to courses at their own institution. In the third course, from which empirical data was collected, the participants were assigned to freely choose what they wanted to write about in the area of teaching and learning related to their own work as teachers, which was also my goal in this present course. Not surprisingly, there are noticeable differences between faculties in how participants perceive teaching and learning. As expected, participants are largely focused on aspects of learning. Since so much of the discussion and literature studied in previous courses has focused on learning. The most common problem area addressed in the reports is how teachers can encourage students to move from surface learning to deep learning. For some teachers, deep learning is mainly associated with interaction and reflection, while surface and deep learning are associated with literature, with lectures. Deep learning can be seen also as holistic learning. This encourages students to understand the task by, for example, relating previous experience to new knowledge, while a person with a superficial approach to learning only focuses on completing a task without really understanding what it entails. A person with this surface type of learning. So maybe you as a teacher can achieve this deep learning by provide reflection, giving them different instructions, good instructions. The question of didactics is very important in our work. How we use time, place, in which order we give tasks, and which literature we use, etc. A lot of questions, how we use technology, etc. So didactics, the study of teaching, you can also develop your knowledge on. It's important to discover, understand the underlying rationalities so that you can relate to them. University teachers must help students to see, understand, and relate to their rationalities. This is one of the parts of an argument about the importance of teachers in higher education, developing student study skills. Do students understand the underlying rationalities in a certain subject or area of knowledge? It must be a guiding question for you. Another guiding question for you can be, do your students understand how they should act and why? How much, when, and in which way? These questions pose a challenge for every teacher, of course. They pose a challenge to become aware of different rationalities and the teaching cultures themselves. In the next step, the teacher must communicate with the students so that they understand the differences and adapt their studies to the rationalities. What are the characteristics of my subject? You should think of this main question uh, from the beginning to the end, all the time. How do we teach a subject and why? What underlying principles do we lean towards? Do the students perceive these underlying principles? Can they perceive them? How? In which extension? What do they think of them? Are the principles optimal for the students' learning, or might the principles need to be developed in some way? What makes students adopt a certain way of studying? Useful questions here to think about. A little bit more about surface or oriented learning. This kind of learning, the focus of the student is on what is explicitly stated and detailed in the text. We can say that it's an atomistic approach to reading. This type of students' learning is about memorizing details. This strategy becomes particularly challenging when dealing with large amounts of text because the aim is not to sort out the most important message from the text. The focus in on remembering the details. So many students with a surface-oriented approach read in a relatively unreflective way. How can you achieve that they adapt a deep approach, your students? A deep approach. So it's, on the other hand, is associated with a holistic approach to reading, as I mentioned before. Students relate, structure, and organize different parts of the content in order to arrive at a holistic understanding. This is a quotation um, from the study of Martin and co-authors, the study from 1917, 17, published the second edition, 1989. The deep approach is about trying to get a grasp of what the text is about and what the central concepts are, as well as the author's arguments and messages. Strategies for deep learning and deep understanding can be that students actively think about the content when reading, stop, ponder, and go back to previous sections of the text. The alternative relate students to wholes and the knowledge they already possess. The goal of understanding the text content is prominent. Martin is a person who lanced this theory, the theory of deep contra surface learning. It's his terminology, namely. So now about your first assignments, which you are expected to submit in the end of the first model. The topic is my view of knowledge. See the instructions on our Google Classroom. Read the literature. Read actively. Take notes while reading. Formulate the questions all the time. Take them with you on every seminar to discuss with your comrades, with your peer and me. Reflect, discuss them. Discuss your own view of knowledge by referring to the theories, relevant theories. Which theories is up to you. So use the theory and motivate and argue how you have gained this view of knowledge, why, how you can implement your view of knowledge, what is knowledge for you actually, and how you, what kind of knowledge you expect your students would develop, in which way, how you can achieve it, implement and apply in your actual work. Thank you for the first meeting. I see forward to meet you again in the next lecture.